Hey Scorpio, this is your December reading, Sagittarius season. All information to work with me one-on-one is below, as well as the extended version to this reading, which will be in the first link below. That's Patreon link. If you sign up for Patreon, you will be the first to receive that extended video before it goes up on YouTube. And I don't always tend to release them. This month I probably will, entering the new year, so you can catch that out in January if you want to wait. Definitely worth it though. So this time I have the name of the reading before we get into it, thanks to my man. It will be called Ice Bath. He's a Scorpio. The eclipses in your signs are over. There's been a lot of discomfort. There's been a lot of need for change, regardless if it's happened and if you've done it, the change continues, right? So Scorpio and Taurus, although, you like this? The eclipses, the nodes have shifted out of your signs. I have noticed that it doesn't mean that the eclipse is necessarily over. What I notice, especially from the Capricorn Cancer eclipses, that's when I realized like what eclipses do. That was like my first, just a few years ago, like 5 years ago, 5, 6. That's when I realized how in-depth eclipses are. Is that, especially if it's going through your sun sign or one of your main signs, sun or rising, I'd say even the moon sign's just as affected, right? Any of the closer planets. You continue to learn for years after to implement all that you have acquired during that time, because you learn so much, maybe have tons of realizations. You're becoming even more of yourself, and that's being revealed because this is when it's a really big growth point, right? So at this time, you may have to find that very physical attachment. So this is not going to make sense for a minute, but if you're interested in any like philosophical ways, a lot of the greats talk about this specifically. So, and this is talked about obviously in Buddhism, in the yoga philosophy, in the Tao. It's everywhere. What you are looking for is a physical attachment, so that you can continue on this change path of becoming who you are and following the guidance of your body. Every water sign and earth sign, in my opinion, have a different relationship with their body, especially if those are in your main chart as well. And the more you honor it, and that is all in what your definition of honor looks like right now, because there's like a legit definition of what honor means, but then what does it look like for you to honor your body, right? That's something that's going to look different from me and you. And maybe it's similar. We wouldn't know unless we talked about it, right? So what this is telling you is that you're still being pulled into this. So this might last until March. So until the beginning of March, I would say, end of February, beginning of March, you may find yourself up against, well, what, and the reason why it's called ice bath is because that's very uncomfortable for most people, just to jump into an ice bath, right? And like it's talked about a lot, it's really good for you, but can you do a minute of that discomfort? And this is clarifying what I've been talking about, is that this is a deep change. It's awakening parts of you that may have laid dormant during the times of the eclipses that are now ready to have more attention and acknowledgement. Because then we have the Ace of Swords. So from the Ten of Swords to the Ace of Swords. That is a lot of power. So you may even find a lot of power. And this is a very Mars thing. This is a very Mars and Scorpio thing. This is a very Scorpio thing. All of it, just in case you have any of those other placements. So Mars is in Sagittarius, but what it's igniting in you, because it went through your sign already, is this movement. It's time to act upon all that you've talked about, all of your contemplation. It's also time to save energy. So while you're being disciplined in this area of your life, and that's like where physical meets faith, and trusting that you are continuously choosing yourself and what you need and what is important to you, and how that shifts your philosophy on life, your relationship to faith, your relationship to trusting your own process, which is very Sagittarius. And this Ace of Swords gives you this ability, then to the Page of Swords, it gives you this ability to be a little lighter. Scorpio is not a light sign. Any Scorpio I know has so much density to them. It's the depth into the water. You need that bone structure. You need that stability within yourself. And even if you are someone who doesn't have a lot of weight on you, there's still a density to your water, which is your internal makeup for the most part. So being around you, there's a a felt sense of depth and weight. And this here is giving you the opportunity to be a little light on your feet, to say, okay, this is obviously changing. There's no holding on to it. It really just makes perhaps you feel like shit. And you've come into this month with, and this I'm doing in the Sagittarius new moon energy. And today, Mercury has also went retrograde in Capricorn. So working on any of those very material fixtures in your life, working on any of those parts will always cause, can cause, that discipline can cause you to, again, be attached to that goal and that outcome and what you've put in, while at the same time letting go of it. Why? Because it can be better than you imagined. Because the responsibility, and then comes into the responsibility, what you owe yourself is the chance to really follow through with the change happening here. So we have on either side of the Two of Pentacles, we have the Nine of Cups and Justice. You will see results. Whether this has to do with you changing, it's big changes, right? So you're at the end of the eclipses and now you're really putting all of this change into your life, which is big changes. It could bring you to change course and job, right? It could bring some health concern that you need to have faith and trust that this can shift under the guise of discipline, under the guise of letting go of the outcome, being attached to the goal, but letting go of the outcome and trusting that something better may happen. Yet being responsible with your words and your actions, and using this lightness to speak up and address where and address where you may feel like you've been receiving crumbs, receiving less than. Which causes you to maybe overthink or spiral in your mind, or you may feel like you're giving or you're not receiving enough, right? So no matter what, if that's in any particular situation, whether it's a love relationship or a job, or it's in a particular situation with your friends, it doesn't matter. This is you being able to address it, which in a way may not feel like you're doing it in a very strong way, or you're not doing it, you don't feel overly confident. But you have to remember, that just means that you feel confident in so many other areas of your life and speaking to so many other areas of your life, which is a beautiful thing. But this is where the growth point is. I'm a believer, and I subscribe to that your sun sign is your growth point in this life. That you follow the sun sign, that's where the growth is, right? So if you're Scorpio sun, that's where you're going into. If you're Scorpio rising, this is about what's taking place to in terms of like how it's shifting your identity. And we'll get obviously more into that into the second part. But these Venus, so the Hierophant being Taurus, the Justice being Libra, these Venusian majors are also they're figures, right? Their hands are both have objects or were drawn to their symbols in their hands, and then they have crowns on their heads. What's interesting is that you can see both the Hierophant's feet, but you can only see one of the Justice feet, keeping something hidden. So what's been hidden to you is that when you go through a bout of time where you need to be determined and you need to be disciplined, not to overutilize that word, but we have Capricorn here on the bottom, Taurus, the Devil, and the Empress, right? The only way to know is to do it. The only way to know is to trust. The only way to know is to continue, because either way, you've mustered up the courage to speak to either the part of yourself, the person, or the job, saying, I deserve more. Because if you don't, and you don't mean it, and you don't actually truly follow through and take that ice bath and have that conversation, or apply or make an alternative plan, or talk to or reach out to someone, any intuitive moments where you feel like doing something but you don't understand why, they get blocked. They get blocked because you're not following what's really important. So now you're at this time where it's like Sagittarius, this season's like, hey, there's magic through this. I need you to be clear and level-headed, and it's okay to be responsible and disciplined right now in terms of what's going to make you feel better, what's going to boost your ego right now in a way that's healthy for you, what's going to allow this change to be more permanent, right? Especially if this is something you've cycled through. This is allowing you to be a little bit more permanent with what's happening. The retrograde maybe give you insights to implement. Either way, you're addressing what's needed to be addressed in a way of like, I'm just going to do it. You may feel that impulse this month to do that, to jump into the cold water, to realize it's not that uncomfortable there, that it gets easier over time. It's just what in your mind stops you of what you already know, right? So this is very watery of a sign, and air. This is water and air, but this is, I find Scorpio and Cancer especially, you can build it up in your mind so much, or you already know what it's like and you've done it and you have that in your head, and all of a sudden there's a wall, or all of a sudden that wall is resistance, and all of a sudden you're like, ugh, and you go back and forth until you just do it, right? The cold helps freeze away anything that is, or any sickness or disease, dis-ease. I find that it's interesting that I live in the Northeast and people still aren't used to the cold, right? They're still like, blah, and it's like, well, we need it, right? We need it to ward off sickness. We need it to help the soil, right? We want good food. We want good nutrients. We want to be able to breathe well. And that allows you to, it challenges you in this comfortable world we live in. And it's not always so comfortable, but what the challenge is to become, when you do this, you become more sensitive, which gives you much more power within yourself, personal power. And it's like, it's almost like you've had the oracle moment this month of like, okay, I see the way forward. And you commit, and you have, it's maybe this ritual in your mind where you're just so committed. And then it's finding the balance of it all. And you're noticing that you don't have to think too much about that because it kind of just all falls into place. But not without having to speak up for your needs or what's happened and for where you want to go. All of that, it becomes very real this month, especially if you've been wanting to make changes. It all just kind of shows up for you. Nothing hidden. All right, Scorpio, we'll get right into the extended. All information is below, and I'll see you next month.